12 o'clock on your Friday afternoon. Now, welcome in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Terry Ford along with you as we've been doing all morning long, reacting to the first round of the NFL draft last night. Some expected things happened. Caleb Williams going first off the board to the Chicago Bears. No surprise there. Some surprises, and trust me, we'll get to that, as I've already talked about a few times with my Atlanta Falcons and what they decided to do. But the best story of the night, of course, locally here at South Carolina, right before the stroke of midnight. It was like 11:55. That first round takes forever. Xavier Legette going 32nd overall, the last pick of the first round of the draft, to the Carolina Panthers. So local kid from Mullen, South Carolina, just off the state line in North Carolina, going to be able to stay very close to home. Obviously, a lot of family and friends going to be able to get out there and see him play with the Panthers. And, as dysfunctional as the Panthers organization may seem at times, it is very cool nonetheless to see Xavier Legette get his opportunity to play football at the next level, and certainly a lot of people here are very excited about that, to see what he's going to be able to do as he transitions to this next chapter of his career.
How you doing? Good seeing you.
Absolutely. Stay up for the whole draft.
My earbuds are in knots.
Hold on. He can't hear me. Wait a second.
Ridiculous.
You know, it's really funny.
Okay, where are we at? There we go. Hey, how you doing?
It's really funny how earbuds, you could lay them on a table, completely flat, untangled, and the second you pick them up, they get a knot in them.
Isn't it crazy? It's like I will sit there and roll them up, and I try to roll them up like decently.
Right.
And they're just a jumble. Yeah. Whatever. And then I open up the thing like the next day, and they're just a jumbled knot.
That makes sense.
Makes no sense. Makes no sense.
Did you stay up for the whole draft last night?
I love the draft. Yeah, I made it, and 30 seconds after it was over,
it was out.
I'm done. Because, again, I'm a draft dork. I love the draft. So, let me get... there we go.
There you go.
Hey, how you doing there?
Yeah,
hey.
We might have to adjust things a little bit there.
I'll fix it here in a little bit.
We've had a makeshift run of it today.
Yeah, we'll fix it. No big deal. Let me over this way. I'm going to go this way. Here we go.
There you go.
There we go. Anyway, so 2 things. My first thought, when I saw Carolina trade back into the first round, obviously they were going for a receiver.
Yes.
And since they were at 33 and only traded to 32, my thought was they got some intel that someone was going to trade with Buffalo to get the last pick and take a receiver. Because if Buffalo's taking a receiver, they're not trading out.
Sure.
Or if you reached out to Buffalo knowing they would need a receiver, but let's say Buffalo likes 3 receivers on the board.
Sure. And their guy or guys are still there.
It's still there. So they're open for business, right?
Right.
So Carolina, either one of those 2 scenarios, either the Panthers got some intel that someone was going to go to 32 and take Legette.
Yep.
And they wanted Legette, and they figured they'd get Legette today with the 33rd pick. They found out somebody else was going to go in and trade with the Bills and take Legette.
Right.
Or, again, the scenario was the Bills like a few different receivers. They're open to trading down a spot, get some draft capital because they need draft capital.
Yes.
And they will trade out of that spot. And again, maybe the intel was also there that, hey, if you're Carolina and you really like Xavier Legette,
sure,
you better go to 32 because somebody else is going to trade with Buffalo and maybe take Legette.
And there was suddenly a run on receivers at that point in time. You had Worthy going to the Chiefs in that trade with Buffalo. You had Ricky Pearsall getting picked right before Xavier Legette.
Which is very interesting.
Yeah, again, it's based on whatever Shanahan believes he can do with him, which who knows? We'll see.
I think with Pearsall, it's position versatility.
Yeah.
He can play the slot. He can go out wide. Also, he's been part of the return game.
There's a lot of questions about the future of Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel out there as well, so we'll see what they decide to do with them as the draft goes along.
Well, remember, 2025, they officially go into cap hell. They have a 1-year window left with this current team, and that's 2024. Me, I'm holding on to everybody, and I'm going for it. I've been to the NFC Championship game.
You're in win-now mode.
Just go. Forget overthinking the room. Oh, we got to clear the decks to make 2020. Forget 2025 doesn't exist. Ready?
There's no calendar that reads 2025.
No. You have officially hit the apocalypse, right? There is no 2025. There's zombies, Mad Max.
As far as you know, the world ends on February the 7th or whenever the Super Bowl is.
Exactly. That's my point. There's no 2025 if you're the 49ers. It's 2024. That's it. Nothing else. Don't overthink it. Don't deal Ayuk. Don't deal Deebo. Don't start thinking about your cap. No, stop. Now. Win now. Be smart and win now.
Right.
So, for me, there's two thoughts when because I figured Leggett, or like the commissioner likes to call him Leggett.
Leggett. I knew he was going to mess that up, by the way.
When he paused, I went, oh, don't
Which,
do
by the way,
that.
I want to give Roger Goodell credit. He had some tough names in that first round.
And he hit those.
He did a good job with those, but
and then he messes up Leggett.
Well, and Chris and I were talking about this earlier because he gets the card has phonetics on it
Sure.
if there's a tough name, and I would imagine they would put like LA-GETT. I feel like that's not hard to mess up, or maybe it was. I don't know.
Maybe they didn't put the. Maybe they did. They thought it was an easy one. And
Maybe
Raj blew
there's
it.
no
I
way
don't know.
Raj is going to screw this one up. Maybe Eminem should have read it.
I love the fact that because it's a joke about him getting booed. He doesn't even care. He knows it's part of the shtick.
He's become self-aware.
Bringing out Eminem and Barry Sanders and Megatron, and it was like
he's trying to not the funniest thing. Sometimes when he brings out like the kids that are a part of like the Miracle Network or Make-A-Wish or have like cancer or something like that, and nobody's going to boo those kids.
No.
Obviously, but the second they leave the stage,
boo. I thought it was funny. They did that. I forgot. Was it with Cameron Hayward when he was Man of the Year?
Yeah.
The minute Cameron Hayward was done, and Goodell got back, boo.
And I liked it better when he was just like not acknowledging it, because now he knows it's a bit. Like that little pre-video they did that with Eminem and all the Lions players before they walked out there. Eminem's like, you're still gonna get booed, right?
Right.
I'm aware. Like I at least liked when he was just ignoring it.
Yeah.
Because to me it made me think it still bothered him a little bit, but now he plays into it.
It's part of the thing. It's part of the spiel.
Which, by the way, Eminem was up there in a pair of sweatpants and some Jordans. Like he looked like he just got off the couch, which is totally fine.
I think he did, by the way. Would you be surprised if Eminem's like later on going,
His watch beeped at like 7:45. He's like, oh yeah, I got to go to that draft thing.
Draft thing. Yeah, it's Detroit. They should have held it in 8 Mile. That's what the draft should have been, 8 Mile.
I don't know if you could have flooded the streets in 8 Mile.
So, yeah, my two thoughts when Leggett got picked. A, good for Xavier Leggett being a first-round pick. Good for Shane. The South Carolina Gamecock program. Great. Then I said this. Oh, bleep. It's Carolina. It's like,
and you know what? New coach, Dave Canales, comes in. Hopefully this is the key to success, and they keep Dave. Maybe they tell David Tepper to go sit at that restaurant that had the sign out him for last night and just watch games there, where he can keep his fingers off of everything. Because you just hope at some point they start figuring it out. Because ever since Tepper took over the team, it's just been one coach after another and general manager after another, and it just hasn't gone.
What's the one constant?
That'd be Tepper.
Yeah. Yes.
Apparently, everybody that tells him honest answers has been removed from the building.
He doesn't want honest answers. He wants yes people. He wants butt smoochers. Look, I hope you're right, because you're being so glass half full. God love you. But that guy, I'm trying to be a nice man. That guy really doesn't understand how to own a football team.
No, and it's so sad because he came from the Steelers organization.
Yes,
he knows what the premier ownership of football looks like.
But so did Truck Stop Jimmy.
That's true.
In Cleveland, he was a part owner of the Steelers too, and look what he did.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just what really gets you is these guys have made billions of dollars in other businesses,
Sure,
right?
They're not idiots. They're smart.
That's the thing. It's like in their business, they're sharp, right? They get it. They know how to maneuver. They know how to be successful, not just on the success of the business, but the financial side of it. These guys crush it in their business world. And then they go to buying an NFL team and they soil themselves. And I think part of it is because they're so good at their other thing.
They think they're going to be good at
They
this,
think
too.
they're going to be good. They can do this. This is easy.
Sure.
And my fantasy team finishes in the top 2 every year. And they just think they know. And they don't. But the problem is, it's very difficult for these guys who have big, gigantic, large egos to match their wallets.
Yeah.
For them to understand they suck and they got to stop. and get out of the way. Jerry Jones created a possible dynasty for his ego.
Well, and if you're one of those people on that payroll, it's not exactly easy to say, hey, person that signs my checks, you're not doing a very good job. Please take your hands off of this and let us drive.
Right, ready? There's a come to Jesus you have with yourself when you're in this situation. You're making a really good living, right?
Yes.
As an executive.
Of course.
And you like your really good living. You like your house. You like your pool. You love your pet llama. I mean, you love all the things that...
The Ferrari you drive to the facility every day.
It's a half mile to the gallon. You love your lifestyle because you're making really good loot.
Of course.
So you look at yourself in the mirror in the morning, in that bathroom mirror, as you're flossing, and you're like, I got two roads to go here. I can go be honest with this boob and tell him how much a boob he really is and try to do it in the nicest, most professional way and do what's right for this organization, what's right for these fans and this city and these players. Or I can continue to smooch this guy's butt and make a lot of money.
It's what we call a calculated decision.
Business decision. And look, I've worked for people in the radio business.
Sure.
That have done this. They've had those two choices and they go with, and our lives at that station I worked at would be miserable because, again, instead of walking into the highest level person and saying, you're a meddling fool, leave us alone and let us do what we do, they keep going with the, yeah, you're great, you're wonderful. And they're making a lot of money to continue to say that.
Well,
I get it. I get it.
It's essentially they're a quarterback in the pocket. It's 1st down and 10, halfway through the first quarter. Yeah, you got a guy running deep, but man, that coverage is pretty tight. I also have my tight end on a check down.
Yes.
I'm going to go with the tight end on the check down. I'm going to go with the safe route. Now, if my back's up against the wall, sure, I'm going to heave it deep, but we're not there yet.
Right, and I think that's a great analogy because I've always said this. As much as the butt smoocher who's looking out for themselves more than looking out for the greater good, in theory, I hate that.
Sure.
Because I would hope I would be noble enough to walk in and go, excuse me, meddling fool, let me tell you what you need to do. That's a great idea until you have rent to pay or a house payment or tuitions to pay or car payments.
As you're pacing back and forth in your office, deciding if you're going to walk down the hall or not, you pull out your little bank app and you check that real quick and you're like, man, that's a nice little monthly sum there.
Let me go back and look at those direct deposits that land twice a month. Hey, you're doing a great job, Tepper. You're phenomenal.
Can I get you anything?
Your decisions, it's everybody else. You're great, man. No one understands you like I do. Dry cleaning?
I noticed the janitor missed a spot in the bathroom. You want me to fire him?
I'll fire him, and I'll get it after I fire him. I'll clean that up. So, look, as much as we scream about butt smoochers, I've never been paid a hefty 6 to 7 figure living by someone who's a meddling fool, and I would have to make that business decision and have my own come to Jesus in the bathroom as I floss my teeth.
I get it.
I do too. As much as we all don't like it, until you've been in that position to have to make that decision as you're looking at your bank app, as you so well put it, you really don't know until you're put in that spot. Again, I hope I be Mr. Noble and go do the right thing.
And you may feel good about that meeting at the moment, but when you come home and your wife says, you did what? You got to explain that one to her.
Dad, why is that man putting your car on that car thing and taking it away?
Because Daddy decided to take a stand for what was good for the organization.
Daddy was noble today. You're an idiot, Daddy. All right, we'll talk more about the draft. A lot to get to. What in the heck were the Falcons thinking? We'll get into that next. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. It's a halftime show as we roll up until 3 here on The Game.
Here's the last pick.
The Buffalo Bills have traded the 32nd pick to the Carolina Panthers. With the 32nd pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Xavier Legette, wide receiver, South Carolina.
Well, you tried, Raj. I'll give you points for that.
Yeah, you paused there, you looked at it, and after all the tough names you had in that first round.
My thing is, even if he has the phonetics on his card, isn't there somebody, because he's walking up there knowing what he's about to say, is there not somebody at the side of the stage like, hey, it's Xavier Legette, like just drilling it into his head so he can say it 5 seconds later?
You know how coaches have the get back guy?
Yes.
Shouldn't you have like a guy standing there, the pronunciation guy?
You would think.
Just to make sure that Raj gets it right? Yes, especially that one. Out of all the other ones you rolled all night.
Let's review some of the names that he did get right earlier on in the night. Olu Fashanu, offensive tackle out of Penn State.
Yeah, what, number 11?
Talise Fuaga out of Oregon State.
You're 2 for 2. Nice job.
I'm 2 for 2. Let's see here. There was Latu. That one's not super hard, but it looks hard when you first look at it. There was another one, I feel like.
Yeah, write down. Keep going. You'll get Troy. Fatanu?
Oh, yeah.
Fatanu?
Troy Fatanu, I believe.
Fatanu, yep. That's not easy.
The Samoan names can be
They can
difficult.
be tough. They can be tough.
Yeah. Legette was too tough for him, apparently.
Yeah. And to be fair, he got Joe Alt right.
Yeah, that was...
That's a tongue twister. Joe Alt. Oh, yeah, so good for Xavier Legette. I'm happy for him. Being a first-round pick, you get the 5-year deal, 4 years in the rookie option on the 5th year, and you are going to be looked at as a guy that is the hope being a number one go-to receiver. So you're being brought in to get, targets and catches, and you're there and to be their number one wideout. So there's a lot of good to this for Xavier Legette.
There is. And again, the Panthers organization has not given us a lot of hope over the past couple of years, but one thing they definitively needed in that draft is exactly what Xavier Legette can bring to the table. So hopefully, and we'll see what they do with the rest of the draft. They get another pick coming up early on in the second round as well. We'll see what they continue to build and what this team looks like ultimately, but that was definitely a piece they needed for this year.
Now, hopefully you can step over the dysfunction and rise above it and, have yourself a nice career. Maybe after the rookie deal, you move on to a functional organization.
Somebody pointed out on the text line this morning to Bill and Preston, they're like, hey, it just means it's his first team. Doesn't mean it's his only team.
That's what Gary said.
I was like, you know what? You can ball out, and it doesn't matter if they lose 12 to 14 games a year. You can go somewhere else after the rookie deal's done. Because
they'll screw it up anyway, and you'll probably be a free agent and go somewhere else. And think about it. Like, everybody compares Legette. One of the comps is A.J. Brown.
Yes.
Well, A.J. Brown got traded from Tennessee to Philadelphia, and last night, right before the draft, Brown
made a whole lot of money.
Ton of bags from the Eagles. So, yeah, this could be the first stop on the highway for Xavier Legette. But congratulations to him, seriously. Very happy for him.
And again, easy guy to root for, very humble. Obviously, he comes from a small town in Mullins. I don't know if you saw that Gamecock football did like a little 4-minute video they put out where they went and talked to people at his hometown and what he means to them and all that kind of stuff. So easy to root for. Obviously, just going to be playing up the road in Carolina. So I imagine a lot of South Carolina fans, in addition to having guys like Clowney and stuff on the team as well, have maybe more keen interest in the Panthers this year.
All right, so good news for South Carolina. Xavier Legette goes in the first round at 32. The talk of the draft, man, I would hate to have the Falcons be my favorite team.
Yeah,
you know anybody?
That would really suck, wouldn't
it? You know anybody?
Unfortunately, I don't. Here's the thing. My entire time as Falcons fan, I've seen drafts go sideways several times.
Yeah.
The 2012 draft, famously, none of those guys were in the league by the end of their rookie deals. They reached for Takk McKinley a couple years ago. I think it was the Lindstrom draft where they traded up to get him, even though he would have been available in the second round as well. Like, they have a history of mismanaging the draft. And last night, seeing this, because again, Raheem Morris, new head coach, who's a former old head coach, but that's besides the point. New regime, essentially, a fresh start. You moved on from Arthur Smith, all that kind of stuff, bright beginnings all the way. But my dad has always said, in my entire time as a Falcons fan, they'll always be the Atlanta Falcons. No matter who the coach is, no matter who the owner is, they always have a way of just doing Falcon-type things. And watching them draft Michael Penix Jr. with the 8th pick last night when they desperately need an edge rusher to disrupt the quarterback, something they haven't been able to do since the Super Bowl year, essentially, they're just the Falcons.
So many things here. So many things. The number one is the fact that you just gave Kirk Cousins $100 million of guaranteed money over a 4-year deal.
Yep.
So that's that. Let's start there. So you figured you got your quarterback position sewed up, right?
Sure.
You're good. So let's go there to begin with. Then to your point B, Dallas Turner was a top 10 value pick in this draft.
He was right there.
And he was sitting there waving at you. Now, again, does Dallas Turner, and you heard on the broadcast, yes, he's got to develop, counter moves and the technique of being an edge pass rusher. He's going to have to work on his technique. But his physical gifts, his get off at the snap, his ability to disrupt in the pass rush game is there. And if you can coach him up a bit to teach him some counters, he could be a double-digit sack guy for you in the NFL. How many double-digit sack guys do the Falcons have right now? Do you want to list them?
I can tell you when the last one was. Vic Beasley, the Super Bowl year.
He's still on the team?
No, that was 8 years ago.
Yes. So the Falcons have their quarterback that they gave a lot of dough to. The fit of Dallas Turner from value and need is perfect at the spot.
Yes.
And then you go and draft Michael Penix Jr. Now, proceed.
I was going to say, we're going to spend a lot of time on this.
Oh, we'll get back to it.
Let me just ask you one question.
Yes.
If you are the quarterback that just got paid the 9-figure salary to quarterback this team for the next 3 to 4 years, don't you think you should be, I don't know, told about this pick beforehand?
But Cousins was.
Yeah, like 2 seconds before.
Well, they were on
as
the
Goodell
clock.
was walking up to the podium, like, oh, by the way, we're going to take Michael Penix Jr. here. Wait, what?
They texted him really quick. He's in the company chat. They popped in the company chat. Hey, Kurt,
No,
we're taking a quarterback.
He was out shopping at Kohl's.
That's true.
Before the store closed, and his beeper buzzed.
Beeper.
And he had to go find a payphone to where he called Terry Fontenot, and he was informed that they were taking Michael Penix Jr.
So you take Penix, and the other parts is so much of none of this makes any
Here's the thing,
sense.
I don't have a problem with Michael Penix Jr. I like him as a quarterback, but at that spot with what you need to win now, it doesn't make sense.
There's a combination of 50 reasons why you don't take Michael Penix Jr. right there. And we'll get to that part. Just forget the Falcons. Just Michael Penix Jr. at that spot makes no sense. But by a team that just gave a quarterback $100 million of guaranteed money, and you're setting yourself up to say he's 36 years old, we're going to win now, and then your first chance to do something to make your team better to win now, you take a quarterback who, by the way, no offense, he's got fantastic arm talent, but dude's had multiple ACL surgeries. Moving is not his friend. And in the second round, like early second round, or somebody wants to go late first round on Penix because, hey, he can sling it, and we're hoping everything else is going to work out, fine.
Sure.
Top 10 in the NFL draft is ridiculous. B, by that team is even more ridiculous. And here's the other part. Once Penix signs that contract, you know what starts ticking?
The clock.
The rookie contract clock starts ticking, which means most teams, again, I'll say most teams, obviously the Falcons aren't most teams. At the end of year 3 is when you make your decision if you're going to kick the 5th year option.
Yes.
Well, if you look at Kirk Cousins' contract, Michael Penix Jr. might not play by his earliest the 3rd year.
He's going to be sitting on the bench.
So how are you going to judge kicking that contract?
You have first-round money tied up in a guy that theoretically shouldn't start a game for you over the next 3 years.
Because if you decide you're going to push Cousins out of the vehicle after a year or two, the cap hit and the dead money hit, or both, are going to kick you in the lower extremities. So again, all of this makes no sense. And we'll get back to it because there are some quotes from Terry Fontenot.
There are, and they're not great.
No, they don't make you feel even more warm and fuzzy if you're a Falcons fan. You're like, how much was he drinking before they made the pick? Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head. We'll bust back in here. A few more notes from the NFL draft next here on the game.
selection.
With the first pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Caleb Williams, quarterback, Southern California.
Stunning. That was a shocker.
You know, one thing that's maybe underappreciated now that they're taking these drafts on the road is that the opposing fan base, especially like Detroit for a Chicago pick, is going to boo the crap out of whatever the pick is. And I do kind of love that element being brought into the draft now.
Yeah, I mean, anything Chicago and Green Bay did, boo, boo. It was fun. Caleb Williams, again, going number one is not a shock. I get it. Totally. We watch Caleb Williams play. Dude's got game. Again, he's not Andrew Luck. All these people trying to go say, oh, he's like when Andrew Luck. No, Andrew Luck was a whole different animal than this guy.
But he could still be very successful, have a long career in the NFL if, you know, he can finally break that trend of Chicago quarterbacks.
The curse.
The curse.
And I think Caleb Williams can be a very good NFL quarterback. He's just not just trying to make him what Andrew Luck was coming out of Stanford. No, he's not.
Yeah, that was something like I wouldn't even say Trevor Lawrence was in the same vein as what Andrew Luck was.
Andrew Luck, people forget because again we have so much recency bias.
Yeah.
You forget Andrew Luck checked every box coming out of Stanford. He was big, strong, cannon for an arm, mobile, smart like nobody's business. First guy, last guy. I mean, he was everything you were looking for. Winner in college.
Yeah.
I mean, he was everything you wanted out of a quarterback. Caleb Williams isn't that guy.
No.
Now, Caleb Williams brings a lot of skills, and I'd have drafted him first, too.
Sure.
I get it. But he's not Andrew Luck coming out of Stanford. But the other thing we talked about yesterday, what are you doing around him to make him successful? And the Bears must have learned from doing nothing for Josh Fields, Justin Fields. I keep calling him Josh Fields. God, why do I do that? The baseball player.
Yeah.
Justin Fields. Didn't do any of this stuff, by the way.
Right.
And right now, if you look at this, you have got DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett, offensive line that got better last year, a run game that was better last year. Matter of fact, the defense that's good, that helps as well. Then you go with the 9th pick, and you have that guy fall in your lap, Odunze. Wow.
I imagine somewhere in an apartment or penthouse in Pittsburgh, Justin Fields is watching the draft, seeing them take Rome Odunze at the number 9 pick, and like, the hell, you couldn't do that for me?
Oh, if I'm Fields, I'm throwing stuff all over my living room. I'm like, look at what this guy's getting. And he's got a real offensive coordinator with skins in the game.
Yep.
And he's getting all this stuff that Fields never got.
Yeah.
And it's like, really? And this is, I mean, because I like Odunze a lot.
Oh, he's great.
I mean, 23 contested catches, which led the nation. He's dangerous on all 3 levels.
If the Falcons would have picked him at the 8th pick, it's not exactly what they need, but I wouldn't have complained.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people had him top 6, top 5 on the big boards.
Sure.
Odunze has got some serious skills. I mean, like every one of these guys, almost, except Harrison Jr., Odunze's got to get better with the route tree and certain things that you have to do in the NFL you don't do in college.
Right.
But Odunze brings so much to the table. And to get him at 9, wow. And again, Fields is just like, really?
Yeah.
Where was all this for me? It's sort of like you go out with somebody and, you know, they maybe forgot your birthday or, you know, they regifted you something for Christmas.
Sure.
And then you guys break up and the next person is getting showered with gifts, a new car, or this or that.
Like, wait a minute.
Whoa. You loved me so much and you bought me sweat socks. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Why did he get better after me?
Yes. Why couldn't I have got all that good stuff? So, again, the Bears, the Bears have been a punching bag for a long time, deservedly so. I hesitate to say this, but it feels like somebody with brains showed up. And they're all, now they're doing things, it feels like, toward the right way.
If Caleb Williams is not successful, it's not because he didn't have anything around him.
Exactly. They are doing everything they can to put him in a position to be successful.
Yes.
All right, Xavier Legette, obviously drafted 32 by the Carolina Panthers last night. And another guy. Look, a lot of great raw talent we saw last year, a phenomenal season. Another guy that's got to work on the route tree a bit. But he's got the tools to be a very good wide receiver in the NFL. Here's what the dudes on the set on ESPN said about the drafting of. By the way, Louis Riddick must be family. He loves Xavier Legette so much. Here is ESPN's breakdown of the South Carolina wide receiver.
This guy, I'm telling you, he can fly. He is competitive at the catch point. He can take the shallow cross. He will split the middle of your defense, and you won't see him anymore. He'll be gone. He can contort his body. He can adjust to bad throws. He will block. He's a competitor. He's tough. Look, Shane Beamer loved him down there in South Carolina. Look at his play right here. This is what I believe one of the fastest recorded GPS top speeds in college football. He was gone. When you watch that on tape, it looks like somebody sped up the tape for just him. At 221 pounds? Come on, man.
I find it really pretty. You had Kansas City won the wide receiver. They got the pick from Buffalo and took Worthy. Carolina wants to help Bryce Young. They got the pick from Buffalo and took Xavier Legette. Now here's Buffalo sitting. Maybe Adonai Mitchell from Texas. Glad McConkey. There's other receivers. I will say this. It ended up being, we said 19 offensive players in round one. 23 went. 9 defense. 23 offense, 9 defense. Blew that record away.
The very strange night, unprecedented in that regard and in many others. But how about this? How much assistance, Booger, does this young man bring to Bryce Young coming off a tough rookie year?
Well, when you think about Bryce Young, a tough rookie year, here's a guy, Greeny, you can give him the ball short and he can take it deep. You talk about run after the catch. Think about him, as Lewis mentioned, like an A.J. Brown. You don't always have to run the football 30, 40 yards down the field and throw him the ball. You can get him the ball in a plethora of ways. He's going to bring the physicality to that offense.
I talk about the 1 year he had, 71 catches he had. We put the next 2 guys on the South Carolina receiver list together. They didn't equal what he did. So he was a dynamic performer this year with Spencer Rattler throwing him the football.
Right. The last South Carolina receiver to go in either of the first 2 rounds was Deebo Samuel in 2019.
So, look, we watched the Xavier Legette show last year. We saw the play they showed is the Mississippi State crosser.
Yes.
When he runs a crosser against Mississippi State, catches the pass in stride.
We were there to see it in person, and it was unbelievable.
We're in the press box, and you watch him catch this crosser, and Louis Riddick described it perfectly. It's like all of a sudden, only he got sped up, and everybody else was moving like in normal motion. He caught that crossing route, turned that thing upfield, and we were sitting there going, wow.
Yeah.
Everybody that thought they had an angle had no angle.
And again, that was still early on in the season. That was game number 3, I believe. So we hadn't fully gotten the scope of what this guy was going to be that season. And that was kind of one of those points like, oh, this guy's special.
It was that, and that play. I think it was the fastest GPS recorded touchdown run of this by a receiver all year.
Yeah.
Because he was flying. And then you see him making the plays down the field that he made. And he is good. Like Louis Riddick said, he was good with contested jump ball catches. And just a phenomenal season all the way around. And here's the thing. If he would have had last year, if he would have banked back-to-back seasons like that, he's a top 15 pick.
Yeah.
The biggest thing held up against him, he was a 1-year guy popping on tape.
And again, when we kind of look at it from the deeper understanding here, maybe didn't have the right offensive coordinator to utilize those talents until this past season.
And now we see someone who goes, wow, this dude's got a lot of game. Let's do this, this, and this to have it produce on the field. So congrats again to Xavier Legette going in the first round to the Carolina Panthers. All right, we'll get back in here. Our Firehouse Subtext, the hour at 803-404-6100 is coming up. It is the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Baseball this weekend, starting tonight, 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch. South Carolina, Kentucky. Tomorrow, 5:45 pregame, 6 o'clock first pitch. Then Sunday, 2:45, our coverage gets started. First pitch at 3. 3-game set of Founders versus the Kentucky Wildcats. Lost 2 out of 3 to Tennessee, but before that, they were smoking.
They've been, I talked to their play-by-play guy, Darren Hedrick, a little bit earlier on. Might play some of that interview a little bit later on. Even he said he didn't see this kind of season coming.
They were, before this losing 2 out of 3 to Tennessee, they were on fire. They lost to Samford in the midweek, but they had swept Bama, swept A&M. There's another sweep, too, I'm trying to think of that they had in the SEC. And they won 2 out of 3 against Missouri.
Yep.
They have been playing really well.
And they're good everywhere. They're good at home. They're good away. So, coming to Founders Park is not going to ding them for how good they've been so far this season.
No, and they're a different type of team. They steal a lot of bags. They don't hit a bunch of homers.
Cole Messina going to be vitally important this weekend.
Yes, and they put pressure on you. If they get on base, they're going to run.
And opponents struggle to get on base against them as well.
Yeah, and their bullpen's good. Their starting pitching is okay to solid, but their bullpen's good.
Yeah.
So this is a team that's just shocked everyone.
And for South Carolina, again, you're sitting at 500 in conference play. You're still good in the RPI. You're still projected to host regional. But this almost kind of feels like, I don't want to say a make or break point in the season, but if you drop 2 out of 3 again this weekend, you're having a tough time going through these last couple series trying to get yourself in a good position at the end of the regular season.
It would be nice to find a way to grind 2 out of 3 here.
Sure.
It just would. Because Kentucky, top at number 3 in the country, I think top 5 RPI. There is a lot of transfer portal additions with this team and they've taken off.
Right.
So. All right, and we will. What's our guy's name here from University of Kentucky?
Darren Hedrick.
We'll get Darren Hedrick in the about 2:15.
Okay.
We'll re-rack Darren Hedrick and let you hear Tyler's interview with the University of Kentucky play-by-play voice. All right, our Firehouse sub text of the hour at 803-404-6100. What do you got there, man?
Yeah, so our guy Steven, different Steven, not that guy, different Steven. He says, I don't think the Falcons were thinking last night. And I'm not going to argue with you on that.
Okay. What do you think the blood alcohol level was in the war room?
So we were talking about this earlier, and I can't remember if it was before or after they made the pick, but it was Terry Fontenot talking to Arthur Blank and the body language, because we don't know what they're saying. And I'm pretty sure it was before the pick was made. It seemed like Terry Fontenot was really having to explain himself to the owner of the team on why this pick was being made. And I would say Arthur Blank's body language didn't instill a lot of confidence that he loved what was happening. But you and I talked about this earlier. He's very much a non-confrontational owner. He doesn't meddle as much as some of these other owners do. So if you can convince him enough, he'll let it happen.
And he just kind of walked away going, okay, all right, I guess. I don't know. Because your thought, if you're Arthur Blank, and they say to you, we're taking Michael Penix Jr., the quarterback from Washington. Did we just get one? Did I just write a check?
Wait. Didn't I just write an insanely large check for the next 4 years to another quarterback?
Did the check bounce? Are we okay? What happened? Did he quit? Did he put in his 2-week notice? I don't get it. I don't understand.
There's a lot of things I could say about the front office of the Atlanta Falcons that we don't have all the time for today.
And we just heard the CBS Sportsman. I don't dog other hosts. Everybody's got their own opinion. But the idea that you're taking Michael Penix Jr. to groom him in the same fashion that the Kansas City Chiefs took Patrick Mahomes, even though they had Alex Smith, that's apples to watermelons.
Let's refresh some people's memories here. So Patrick Mahomes was drafted in 2017. Kansas City Chiefs, I believe, had the 27th pick in that draft, and they traded up to get him.
Yes.
So, typically when you're drafting at the back half of the draft, you're probably in a pretty good space where you can take those kind of gambles saying, okay, we don't desperately need something in the first round of this draft to where we can go ahead and get that quarterback of the future because we're good at all these other spots. The Falcons are not in that position. No. They needed help at the edge spot on defense. They could have used more guys in the secondary, and there were a plethora of them sitting there ready to be taken.
That kid Mitchell at corner from Toledo.
Terry and Arnold from Alabama.
Taking them at 9 or whatever is a little high.
But you could have traded back.
Oh, you could, but see, that's what I was getting ready to say. If you don't love Dallas Turner, for whatever your reason, and that's fine. Again, there's some rawness to Turner's game.
Sure.
Trade back, accumulate draft capital.
Yeah.
But what you did, no. And let's go back to the Penix Jr. and trying to compare that to the Mahomes being picked by Kansas City. Alex Smith was coming to the end of his deal where it wasn't going to hurt Kansas City in cap, dead money, whatever. And the deal was pretty much, now it was a friendly deal to move away from, if my memory serves me.
Right.
You're not there with, you just signed Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Kansas City just didn't sign Alex Smith and then drafted Patrick Mahomes. It's totally different.
Yeah.
It's like, and of course, Kirk Cousins' agent's like, well, Kurt's kind of frustrated and bewildered by this whole thing. Well, welcome to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Falcons.
Get used to it, bud.
And it just, no, it's a totally different scenario. And I don't understand. Fontenot was, he pulled the fan card. Oh, it's our job to the fans in the city and this organization to want to be good. Why did you sign a 36-year-old quarterback if you're thinking of taking your quarterback of the future with a top 10 pick?
Terry, I got something to tease for the next hour. We have surveillance footage of David Tepper walking into the restaurant that put the sign out.
No.
Making fun of him last night.
No.
I'm not kidding.
This is good. Football coming up in the 1 o'clock hour, obviously, including that little nugget. Terry Ford, Tyler Head is sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. It's coming up next. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head. Football this hour, like always, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Not a whole lot of football to talk about, though, Tyler. It's going to be a tough hour to fill.
Yeah, none at all.
NFL draft last night, obviously. We've been yapping about Xavier Legette getting picked by the Carolina Panthers. Panthers going back into the first round to draft Legette.
Yes.
And like we said earlier, it's one of two scenarios. Either Carolina got the whiff that someone was going to trade with Buffalo and draft Legette because the Panthers are ready to draft Legette with their first pick in the second round today. So they traded into the first round to get Legette so no one else would. Or B, Buffalo liked 2-3 wide receivers, about the same, figured they could trade out of that pick and, kind of throw it up to the highest bidder who wanted a receiver in that spot.
Right.
And with the threat of Buffalo maybe taking Legette, Carolina stepped in there and traded back into the first round to get the South Carolina wide receiver. You have breaking news from Carolina, though.
I do. I got to give credit to WBTV News out of Charlotte. So we've probably all seen the story by now that there was a restaurant out there, Dilworth Neighborhood Grill in Charlotte, that put up a sign, I guess, prior to the draft last night that said, "Let the coach and GM pick," obviously in reference to the Carolina Panthers, where they weren't expecting to have a first-round pick last night. David Tepper was highly offended by this sign.
Because it's insinuating Tepper's making the picks.
Exactly.
Quit meddling
Yes,
is what the sign's insinuating.
basically that's what it's saying. And there was a report last night that David Tepper paid a visit to this restaurant, I'm assuming on his way to the facility last night. We have surveillance video of this interaction of David Tepper walking in, talking to, I don't know if it's the owner, if it's just a dude at the front door, talking to two employees about the sign. And you and I were trying to figure this out. The guy working at the restaurant is wearing a white hat. Mm-hmm. And as David Tepper comes in and kind of puts his hands on the podium, he takes the guy's hat off. And I'm not sure what that was for. Like, listen here, Junior, you're talking to a billionaire here. Take your hat off when you're looking at me. Show some respect. But, like, what a loser. What a freaking loser.
I know. It just it speaks to why there's so much dysfunction in the organization. Why do you care?
Why should that bother you?
I got a great idea. You don't want signs put up like that? Do better.
Yeah.
Do better at your job.
If you are the owner of any business, let alone a sports team, you're going to have criticism.
Yes.
And we're not saying this guy was wrong for putting the sign out there saying that, because it does seem like he's meddled in a lot of their draft picks. But why are you on the way to the facility to make a draft pick?
Right.
Why are you so bothered by this that you have to come in there and say something?
Exactly.
Because if anything, that shines more light on the business.
Yeah.
Because you have a fan base that's so frustrated with you.
Right.
I guarantee you their business is going to go through the roof.
Right. You just help that business. Everybody loves that business. It's just the idea, if you were good at all this stuff, there would be no signs.
Exactly.
Or you get a kook every now and then who's mad at you over whatever, because there's always some kind of criticism. But if you're really good, you're not having a sign put up saying, "Let the coach and GM make the picks." Basically, meddling owners, stop meddling.
If one person tells you you suck, they're hating on you.
Right.
If everybody tells you you suck, they're right.
Yeah. And so it's like, hey, thin-skinned Dave, why don't you just go to the facility and get out of the way and let the people you hire do their job? Maybe they'll do it well enough. Nobody's going to put signs up. But then the next sign you're going to see is "Go Panthers."
Yeah.
How about that again? How about worrying about that your fan base doesn't even want to show up for games, that you're looked at as a punchline, not by this poor guy at a restaurant, by the entire league.
But here's the thing, he's not aware of that.
Oh, no, not at all, because obviously we see a dude who believes he is the schnizzle, so to speak, right?
Oh, of course.
He's the man. And his ego does not let him see what's really going on around him, because he thinks he's wonderful. Because, hey, I'm a billionaire. That means I don't just know my business to make me a billionaire. I'm smart about everything. I know everything.
Now, this interaction, you can find the surveillance video at WBTV News out of Charlotte.
We'll put it out too.
We'll put it out too. So you can go and see it for yourself. But I think back, because I'm going to be interested to see what happens with this restaurant going forward. Because David Tepper has the famous quote of, "I'm so rich, if I get bad service at a restaurant, I'm not going to leave a bad tip. I'm just going to buy the restaurant and fire everybody." Mm-hmm. This is literally the scenario. Does he back up his word?
What if he did? All of a sudden, it's Tepper's place.
Tepper's Neighborhood Grill, and nobody goes there.
That's right. And the sign, and it said he has signs up. We love David Tepper.
It's like
We heart David Tepper.
That's a little bit of a change in heart, huh?
But the hat thing is what really gets me. Why is he taking the guy's hat off?
I don't get it. Like I don't know.
It's so weird. What did because we're looking at it. Did he take the hat off?
And here's the thing. I'm just looking at the way that I'm assuming these two employees are dressed. Very casual. Girl's got a graphic T-shirt on. Again, the guy's got a hat on. At least feels like a very casual, like hangout type place. This isn't like a 5-star suit and tie restaurant.
It's a neighborhood restaurant.
It's a neighborhood grill. Everybody's hanging out, having some beers, probably getting ready to watch the draft here in a couple of hours. And hey, isn't that Tepper over there walking in? Why do you take that guy's hat off?
Did he get some carry out to take to the facility? Why is he here before the draft?
You know, David Tepper probably walked in there. He's probably never been in a place like this. No. You're like, what is this place?
Wow. What are chicken tenders? Never heard of this.
Why are there peanuts on the floor?
It's awful. Wait a minute. I don't have to wait to be seated? This is bizarre.
Nobody parked my car out front.
There's no valet. And he went in, takes the guy's hat, talks to him, does shake the dude's hand before he leaves.
He's not like visibly angry, but the fact that he did this,
he's even there.
It's pathetic enough.
Now I tell you this,
just
you know what would have
keep
been funny?
driving.
If he stops and he takes a picture holding the sign.
Sure.
And he does something goofy.
Sure.
Like, I heard about your sign. I think it's kind of funny. Can I get a picture with you guys and me and the sign?
Yeah,
what do you say?
like own it a little bit.
Right. Understand why people think you're a goober.
Sure.
But instead, like Roger Goodell with the booing we were talking
Exactly.
about.
Like that's, endearing. Like, all right, he gets it. He understands and he's playing it up.
Right. He's not offended or thin-skinned about it. Whatever, he gets it. He's going to get booed. If Tepper would have done something like that, I'd have been like, all right, man, that's kind of cool. But to stop there, to take the guy's hat off, to talk about the sign, to shake hands and leave, and then go to the facility for the draft. What are you doing?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, wow. But yeah, we'll pop it out on our Twitter so you can see it at 107.5 The Game. It's very Tepper.
Yeah.
It's very Tepper.
I wish Jay was here today because he would have a field day with
Jay.
this.
Would love it. Jay would love that. But again, when you are awful as a franchise and you are looked at as maybe the worst owner in the NFL, which is saying something, this only fuels the fire on why you stink, right?
100%.
So, yeah, we'll pop that up on our Twitter at 107.5 The Game, and you can watch this because it's just, you watch it, you're going, why is he there? It's so weird. It's just so weird.
Imagine, I don't know, you can't really tell this dude's got his back to the camera, but imagine this, I don't know, college-age kid that's working at this restaurant, probably making minimum wage or something like that. Is like, hey, how was your day today? Well, a billionaire came in and got mad at a sign in front of my work today.
He took my hat off, then put it back on. And the guy's going like this, like shrugging his shoulders, too.
Because he was probably not the one that made the sign.
Right. He's probably going, I don't know who did the sign, or I don't know anything about the sign, or whatever. He's like, I just work here, bub. Just why you hassle me and give me my hat back.
Pathetic.
It's craziness. It is just, wow. The hits keep coming with David Tepper. All right, we're doing football here in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We will spin back, and Jaden Daniels taken number 2 by the Commanders. We'll hear a little bit of Jaden Daniels' interview, and we will also take a look forward to what could happen today. And with this run on quarterbacks, which we haven't really dug into yet, and we will in this hour, it benefits someone possibly that you know pretty well. We'll get into all that football in the 1 o'clock hour. Like I said, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Like we said, baseball starting tonight against Kentucky, 6:45 this evening. Tomorrow, 5:45. Sunday, 2:45.
By the way, we actually have some tickets we can give away right now to tonight's game.
What number should they call, Tyler?
Let's go 803-404-6100. Caller number 6. Right now, win yourself a pair of tickets to tonight's game, 7 o'clock, out at Founders Park.
803-404-6100. Call right now, and Tyler will answer the phone. And if you're caller number 6, you'll get the tickets. Also, if you're at the game, maybe before you go, you should go to 1075thegame.com. Look for the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway. That little flippy thing at the top, once it flips on to the contest, click on it, fill out the form, because if a Gamecock hits a Grand Slam, you might win $1,000. The pot is up to $1,000. It's $25 a game. So far this year, not one Gamecock's hit a Grand Slam.
Not yet.
We're up to $1,000. So fill that out before you go, and who knows? You might win $1,000, because if a Gamecock does hit a Grand Slam, Monday morning at 7:30 on the early game, Bill and Preston and Jen will draw a winner. It is the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway from our folks at Palmetto Citizens and here at the game. It's spring. A lot of people, once you get to spring, it's like a new beginning because the weather gets very nice. And people start to congregate and go to each other's homes and hang out together and sit in yards by their barbecue pits or watch TV on their big outdoor TVs or their swimming pools or whatever. And some folks like to redo their homes this time of year. And if you're going to redo your home, whether it's maybe, new appliances, new fixtures, new lighting, maybe a new bathtub or shower or sink. You want experienced people. People who are going to do what you want to do and do it within your budget. I got the perfect people for you. The Nest. 1331 Gadsden Street in Columbia, in the Vista. 803-978-2025. Call, set an appointment, and your home will look like you want it to in your budget. The Nest. 803-978-2025 on Gadsden Street in Columbia. football. Here in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. Halftime show sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. All right, by the way, we were talking about this place, Dilworth Grill.
Mm-hmm.
Our voice guy, the guy that you just heard, Jimmy Penman, he just texted me. He said, FYI, Dilworth Grill is the Gamecocks hangout on game days
Oh, okay.
in Charlotte. He said, feels like home for Gamecock fans.
Well, if you love the Gamecocks and hate David Tepper, that's the place to go.
Perfect.
By the way, I'm tweeting out the surveillance footage on our 107.5 The Game Twitter account if you've not seen it yet.
Sweet. It's very good. So it's a little bizarre, but it's an interesting bizarre. All right. Jaden Daniels, the number 2 pick overall by the Washington Commanders. There was some smoke that maybe Daniels wanted to play for the Raiders and not the Commanders, and you're saying, why would he want to play for the Raiders? Does he like Vegas? He loves Vegas. Who doesn't?
Apparently, you liked Antonio Pierce.
Yes, Antonio Pierce was on the coaching staff at Arizona State when Jaden Daniels was at Arizona State.
Yeah, all the way back in 2001.
This shows you how long Jaden Daniels has been in college. Jaden Daniels just turned 35. So that's the connection. But at the end of the day, and I've been saying this, if you're the Commanders, you go, who gives a bleep? If you're the guy we want and we think you are a franchise quarterback, we're taking you. End of story. And you're going to play for us. End of story.
Yeah, but very, very few draft picks have the leverage that an Eli Manning, a John Elway had to be able to literally say, pick me, I'm not playing for you.
And here's the issue with that. Now, again, it worked out for the Chargers and the Giants both. Giants got Eli Manning, Chargers got Phillip Rivers, and it worked out for both. Colts, the Colts got Chris Hinton, couple of kicking tees.
How many Super Bowls
Mark Herman.
How many Super Bowls did Chris Hinton take the Colts to?
Let me list them.
Done?
Yeah, I mean, we're done. And that trade obviously worked out better for Denver, but look, you've got to be strong as a front office and ownership. You take the guy because you have all the leverage.
Yeah.
I mean, even with Elway and Eli Manning, those organizations had the leverage. They just were not strong enough to follow through with their leverage if they truly wanted to keep that guy. Now, again, with Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers, okay, that worked out. But if you were the Colts, screw you, Elway. Go play baseball.
Right.
You're a singles hitter, and you hit 300 maybe, and you're far and away a better football player. Will make more money playing football. So go ahead, go play baseball, dude.
Yeah, call his bluff.
You ready? Go ride those buses in the minors. Go have some fun.
Have fun with that.
Go get them. Enjoy Saskatoon,
I
bro.
say, let me know how Billings, Montana is.
I see, but you had a weak drunk owner in Robert Irsay in Baltimore, who basically caved and panicked and made a terrible deal behind his GM's back. He just didn't go in a restaurant and pull down a sign or take someone's hat off.
That we know of. There was no social media back then.
That's true.
Could have happened.
He just was drunk and stumbled off a tarmac. But anyway, so you just got to be strong and take your guy. And look at that guy and say, what are we going to do, bub? You're playing for us. And you're going to see that we're a different team now. We're a different organization. We don't have that owner that was here for years. He's gone. It's a new day and a new time. And once you get in here, you'll see we have changed.
And the Commanders have a lot of equity in this draft. They have the ability to really put a lot of good things around Jaden Daniels to help him succeed. Like, it's not the unattractive destination that some people make it out to be.
Right? It's a different world. When you saw some of the things going on with Washington in the offseason, they had a ton of draft capital. They have a ton of cap space. You know, for coaches, that was a good coaching gig. I can't believe I'm saying that out loud. The Washington football head coaching job was a good job. But it was. You got new ownership. You've got a guy in the front office, a GM, who learned in San Francisco that successful front office culture. There's a lot of positivity there to want to take that job. That's why when we heard about the offensive coordinator in Detroit turned it down or took his name out of consideration to
Ben
stay.
Johnson.
Yeah, Ben Johnson took his name out of consideration. I'm like, you understand Daniel Snyder's not there anymore, right, Bob?
Right.
So basically, Washington did the right thing by drafting Jaden Daniels last night. And here's Jaden Daniels after being drafted, doing a little one-on-one.
It's been a blessing, man. I couldn't be here without God, man. It's been a blessing. All the adversity I've been through, the perseverance, man. I'm just happy I'm blessed.
How can this Commanders offensive staff, including guys like Cliff Kingsbury, bring out the best in you?
Just believe in me. You know, it's going to be a grind. We're going to work. I'm a hard worker, man, so I can't wait.
Jayden Daniels is a worker.
Yeah.
That's the one thing you hear. He's a worker. Look how much he's improved since his Arizona State days. I mean, the guy that he was last year, he was nowhere near that dude when he left Arizona State.
I was going to say the difference between him, and it's kind of funny, you know, the comparisons between him and Joe Burrow. Year 1 and year 2 at LSU, huge difference. I mean, good in year 1 at LSU was obviously helped take them to the SEC championship game, but year 2 was just an enormous step forward. Like, where has this guy been?
40 TDs, 4 picks. His numbers, if you get to look at his breakdown, his numbers, 20-plus yards down the field, vile.
Yeah.
They are vile. And part of it is you had 2 first-round picks at wide receiver. I get it, but you also had to get the ball to him.
You did. And again, that should have been an LSU team that should have been the mix for the playoff all season long. Their defense just gave up 70 points a game.
Tyler, if they would have had a solid defense, they're in the mix for the college football playoff. That offense was unstoppable. Remember that Ole Miss game was 200 to 197 or whatever that was?
Yeah, pretty much.
That game was a picture of the entire LSU season right there.
Yeah.
Unbelievable offense, unbelievably terrible defense. So, I mean, Jayden Daniels, the thing about Jayden Daniels, obviously, is they talk about he's got to get smarter when he takes off. At LSU, he didn't slide. He didn't run out of bounds. He kept trying to make plays. You learn. Lamar Jackson learned.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson learned in his rookie year, this ain't college anymore. I got to get smarter. I got to get out of bounds. I got to slide. I got to protect myself. You learn.
And I think Lamar Jackson's a good person to bring up because they have similar frames where Jayden Daniels, very tall, but not the thickest guy in the world. I know he's at 210, but when you're talking about distributing that over a 6'4", 6'3" guy, however tall he is, then that's a little bit frail compared to some of these other thicker quarterbacks in the NFL. So I don't know how much bulking up he can do once he gets to Washington, but that would certainly help him out.
You know, Lamar has bulked up the last couple of years. Still, he's not like, built like Patrick Mahomes, but Lamar has put on some muscle weight. And you're right. Daniels can put on some. It's not like all of a sudden Daniels is going to be yoked overnight, right?
No. You can only grow so much at the age of 25 or 38,
and when
however
you're
old
built
he is.
like that, you're never going to all of a sudden be piling muscles.
Yeah.
You'll have those thin guy muscles. You'll be, what do they call it, cut.
Yeah, you're not going to become world's strongest man overnight.
No. I mean, so there's only so much you can do in that frame.
Yeah.
But he can get a little bit stronger and maybe add, what do you think, 10 pounds, maybe
Sure.
15.
Sure.
So that's kind of that's all he can do with his frame. The other thing is, okay, wow, this guy had a phenomenal year. He was unbelievable. But was this a creation of all these things coming together at LSU, or is he really this guy?
We're going to find out.
And we're going to find out. But I got no problem with Daniels going 2. No. I just don't. I think he improved so much from year 1 to year 2 at LSU. And watching him play the times I watched him this past season and the throws he did make. Now, look, he still takes off a little too quick. That was his biggest problem at Arizona State. Dude would drop back. He wouldn't even get to the first progression and just take off because he can run so well. He's gotten so much better at that. You hope he'll get better in the pro level with staying on progression 3 and things like that, using his legs to buy time to throw instead of just taking off and running. But, I mean, what you saw last year at LSU, wow.
Yeah.
Just wow. So I think the Commanders, that was the spot to take that guy. I got no problem with that. I think if you're the Commanders, you had to put that card up with Jayden Daniels.
Yeah, absolutely. You needed a quarterback unless you want to keep going back to the Sam Howell well, and that's not working out too well.
That didn't go well at all. Sam, throw it to the guys wearing the Washington jerseys.
Now,
Sam.
And there was obviously organizational issues that have persisted for a while there, which, I mean, Sam Howell's, I forgot he's with the Seahawks now, but that was something that it wasn't working.
No, and part of it is, some of the things Sam Howell did last year were the things that people were concerned about when he came into the NFL. Part of it also is, too, the offensive line had some issues. Part of it, you look at the coaching staff. Were they putting any quarterback in the best position to succeed? And again, the other part is it was the Commanders.
Right.
So, but I think it was apparent watching Sam Howell last year that at this point in time in his career, he's not ready to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And you had to go improve that position, and I think you did the right thing by taking, Jaden Daniels. Speaking of the quarterback position, there is a guy who might have benefited a lot from last night. I think you know who he is. We'll get into that next. It's football, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. And by the way, the craft beer card's back. You spend $30 a brewery, 12 craft beer locations. You multiply that, that's a $360 value you're going to get for $79. Interested? Go to 1075thegame.com, click on Sweet Deals, get yourself a craft beer card. Let's talk quarterbacks possibly drafted tonight as rounds 2 and 3 roll with the NFL draft. That's next. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. Football in the 1 o'clock hour on the Game. Football in the 1 o'clock hour here on the game. Obviously, NFL draft huge last night. I wonder what the ratings are going to be. Tyler, I haven't seen it yet.
A lot.
You think?
Let me see if I can find anything. Probably more than people are going to watch the NBA Finals. Probably more than people are going to watch the World Series. Probably combined, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I mean, pick a sports finals. NFL draft will get more numbers.
I brought this point up earlier. Watching the draft last night, I get the I was there. I don't think going to the draft would be all that fun, to be honest with you.
You know, it's interesting you say that. I've had buddies who have gone to the draft and when it was in New York City, and I couldn't go because I was always working. I used to host draft show.
Sure.
And so I couldn't go. And they loved it.
But that was in Radio City Music Hall.
Yeah, here's my thing.
This was a street fair last night.
I think I would like it, but I might walk away going, that was not as cool as I thought it was going to be, and I'd rather watch it on TV.
It to me, it equates, and reading kind of some of people that have gone to it, that go to it this year, of what exactly it's like experiencing it out. Because, yes, if you're under, the canopy, where they have, the fan sections where they cut to them like, hey, the Panthers made a pick. Here's Panthers fans screaming at the camera. But there's the other 80,000 people standing out in the middle of a street, essentially, a quarter mile away from the TV.
Watching.
Yeah, there's no speakers around there. Apparently, you're finding out a lot of information on your phone because you can't really see or hear all that well. From that standpoint, I don't know if it's really worth it.
No, I'd rather be at home. Or I'd just rather go off to some sports bar and sit and eat and drink and watch it.
Be careful what the sign in front of that sports bar says, because if it's criticizing your city's team's owner, then he might show up.
You never know. And take your hat. Jeez. All right. Tonight, now there's a run on quarterbacks yesterday. And look, I'll say it. I wouldn't have taken J.J. McCarthy that high. I wouldn't have taken Michael Penix Jr. that high. I wouldn't have taken Bo Nix that high. But the desperation to have a franchise quarterback and the idea that you had that many teams in need of a franchise quarterback, and you had a quarterback class that was better or deeper in possible franchise quarterbacks than you typically have. All that perfect stormed into what you saw last night with 6 QBs going in the first round. Now, Nix and Penix, most people will tell you, are second-round grades.
Right.
Again, I don't know if Bo Nix can complete NFL throws past 10 yards.
That's definitely a question mark on him.
And Michael Penix Jr., again, he's fine if he drops back in rhythm, 3, 5, 7 steps, looks and wings it, and he's got, a cleanish pocket. But what's going to happen when the pocket gets dirty and he's getting hit and he has to, maneuver around? Is he going to be able to survive in the NFL?
And he's not a quarterback that's too keen on getting hit, given the litany of knee injuries that he's had up to this point. So you want to limit contact as much as you can.
Yeah, as much as he has phenomenal arm, he might have the best arm talent in the draft. But it doesn't matter if you can't move. It doesn't matter if you're on your back.
Very much.
Again, if you want to take Penix Jr. in the bottom of the first round because he does have a really nice arm, I get it. I think Nix is a second-round guy. I would not draft Nix at all because I don't know if he can consistently throw the ball down the field in the money spot in the NFL, which is about 12 to 15 yards, hit tight windows, and do it accurately, consistently. I think he was a product of the Oregon offense, and that's not a criticism because he was great in it.
Sure.
But how does that translate to the NFL? To me, that's a huge question mark.
Yeah, I don't know.
We've talked about McCarthy here many different times. I get it, but then I don't get it. And there's no way I'm taking McCarthy in the top 15. Again, another guy, if you want to take him in the bottom of the first round because of the things you like about him,
sure,
I'm fine with that. But there's so many unknowns with J.J. McCarthy, that many unknowns, I can't take that high in the draft. But that's just me. That's why I'm not running the war room, I guess. But I understand Williams and I understand Daniels.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So this run on quarterbacks now sets up Spencer Rattler nicely. Rattler could actually go in the second round tonight.
He is believed to be the best quarterback available right now.
And I think if you look at pretty much, Kuiper said it last night, all draft boards that you see have Rattler as the next guy. And here is Mel as they're having a conversation. I think it's with Scott Van Pelt.
Yeah, with the SVP after the draft last night.
Talking about the second and third round, that's tonight, and maybe the next quarterback that's going to go off the board, and we're pretty familiar with that guy.
Well, we had one and Bo Nix go way up. I had him at 31 on my board. Okay, so he went, at 12, right? I had him at 31. I have Spencer Rattler at 99. That's what I said when those quarterbacks flew off. They said somebody's going to look at Nix. They have to now. Even the Raiders at 13 didn't see a quarterback there. They were shocked, I'm sure, that didn't happen, that happened that way. And here's Rattler at 99. Well, somebody like Dallas. Well, the Giants. I just said, hey, they were going to look at a quarterback. Maybe the Giants, maybe the Cowboys, right? Look at a quarterback. Somebody like that was thinking quarterback maybe, in the mix in the third round area may look at Spencer Rattler. I think third round is the earliest I would think about it. Some think second round, Scott, but I do think he will be the next quarterback off the board prior to Saturday.
Okay, I think he now will. There's a really good chance he goes in the second round.
Yeah, it's a lot higher than it was last night. And I even saw some projections that had like Penix somewhere around that second round because, again, there are some concerns with him, certainly, and that would have made, a lot of sense. Now that he's off the board at that point in time, Nix as well. You're looking at Spencer Rattler, Michael Pratt is kind of projected around the same area as him, but you're definitely in that second level of quarterbacks, it seems like, that we didn't think we're going to be seeing until the third round, but who knows?
Yeah, and I joke about it this way all the time. Desperation is never your friend. Think about in life when you've been desperate.
Sure.
You've done things you typically wouldn't do.
Of course.
A lot of us have done it. And my court documents are sealed.
Statute of limitations.
Yes. I don't know. I got to double check. And I think that's what happened last night. I think you had teams. The Vikings obviously needed a quarterback after, punting Kirk Cousins. And Sam Darnold's not the guy. You're ready? Here's the not a hot take prediction. Sam Darnold might start the year as a Vikings quarterback, maybe. I don't think he'll be the Vikings quarterback in October.
I would doubt that.
Sam Darnold, there's a reason why Sam Darnold is now a journeyman.
Well, here's the thing. J.J. McCarthy may not be that great. He's probably better than Sam Darnold.
J.J. McCarthy will be the starting quarterback by the middle of October, most likely.
Probably.
That's another conversation we'll get to at some point. Denver, Jared Stidham and our boy Wilson, Zach Wilson from the Jets. Okay. So Denver was in the market for a quarterback. So they went, all right, these guys might not be there in the second round when we pick again. We're going to take them now. That's panic.
Right.
That's not smart use of the draft and how to maneuver the draft. Now, again, these guys are good. No one cares. But when you draft a guy in the first round, there's an expectation level that goes with that guy.
Right.
You're expected to be a starter in the league for a long period of time.
Well, with the money that you were tying up in that first-round pick, which, again, goes back to the Penix thing, you're going to be paying him first-round money to theoretically not start for you for at least 3 years.
So when you put the expectation, when you put the moniker first-round pick on a dude, that dude better be good.
Sure.
So now you put this pressure on a Bo Nix to be who he might not be. And by the way, there's not going to be a lot of patience. Again, Stidham and Wilson. When does Bo Nix take over as a starter in Denver this year?
Week 1.
And here's a guy that really needs to be, moved along slowly.
And that's the thing, because, and I'll say this at least for the Penix thing, push the money aside and all that kind of stuff, at least he has the ability to sit behind a veteran quarterback in the NFL and learn and develop. Bo Nix doesn't really have that option. He might actually be the best guy coming out of camp. Like, all right, you're the starter. Good luck.
Yeah, and same thing with Minnesota, J.J. McCarthy. McCarthy's got Justin Jefferson. They've got some good weaponry. They've got Addison at wide receiver, Hawkinson at tight end. So they've got, and the offensive line solid. Kevin McConnell is a quarterback whisperer and an offensive coordinator who puts his quarterbacks in a good position to succeed. But the panic, the desperation, you saw that in the first round. So let's go to the second round really quick. You drop down to number 44, Raiders. They have Aiden O'Connell and they have Uncle Rico. Gardner Minshew.
You tell me that quarterback room doesn't instill a lot of confidence in you?
No, not really. So at 44, you have the Raiders.
Yep.
45, you have the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
Saints are going to need a quarterback at some point.
Yes.
Derek Carr's contract's going to turn team-friendly, and Derek Carr's not going to be your answer moving forward. The Giants, everybody thought the Giants would take J.J. McCarthy at 6. The Giants were smart. They didn't believe in him. They didn't take him.
Yep.
They took Malik Neighbors, who I think is going to be really good as well. But the Giants aren't sold on Daniel Jones, which they shouldn't be.
Nope.
Giants sit at 46. The place, if I'm Spencer Rattler and I'm praying to the football gods this morning, is at 52. The Rams. If the Rams take you, you sit behind Matthew Stafford, you learn at the feet of Sean McVay. You're not on a first-round quarterback rookie deal where the clock is ticking to get you on the field with the expectations of being a first-round pick. That would be a nice spot. And the reason I'm thinking the second round now is because these teams who didn't get a quarterback in the first round, what's that D word we like to use?
Desperate.
They're now desperate even more. Spencer Rattler is far and away the next best quarterback on the board.
Absolutely.
I feel like someone in the second round is going to say, well, if we don't take him now, is he going to be there in the third round for us? And they might snatch him in the second round. So don't be surprised if Rattler goes in the second round. And again, if you're lucky, you go to 52. You last at 52 and the Rams take you. Now, could Rattler, could no quarterback get taken in the second round? I mean, it could happen.
Yeah.
But I really believe the desperation on some teams is even higher now. And I think Rattler won't get out of the second round, which is good for Spencer.
Oh, absolutely.
Very happy for Spencer if that happens.
Better deal. Hopefully it's a good situation, but we'll see tonight.
Yes, we will. All right. Jump back in. We'll get to our Firehouse Sub Text the hour at 803-404-6100. Don't forget, you can listen to us anywhere on our 107.5 The Game app. You can go to iTunes, Google Play, and just download it. And everywhere you go, you can listen to the game. We'll come back and get our Firehouse Sub Text the hour next at 803-404-6100 on the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the game. Baseball here on the game tonight, 6:45, South Carolina, Kentucky. It's from at Founders, but if you can't go, you can listen to it here in Columbia and also in Myrtle Beach at 100.3 The Game as well. Saturday, 5:45 pregame. Coverage starts 2:45 on Sunday. Carolina baseball here on the game. All right, Firehouse Sub text the hour on our text line, 803-404-6100. What do you got, man?
So this is in response to the Tepper video. Levi weighs in. I need more on why he took the guy's hat off. Tepper, don't start nothing from a concerned Panthers fan. We have a great offseason. You were having a great non-meddlesome offseason. The criticism comes with the territory. Glad to see the handshake, though.
Yeah, the handshake at the end was cool. At least whatever goofiness was going on, he did shake the guy's hand. So that was cool. But yeah, the hat is so weird. And if you know what we're talking about, we put it up at 1075thegame.com.
Yeah, it's on our Twitter.
At 1075thegame. David Tepper went to the restaurant where they put a sign up saying, let the GM and the coach pick. Basically taking a shot at the meddling owner.
Exactly.
So the meddling owner decided to meddle in the restaurant, which I think is interesting.
That helps his cause.
Yeah. So we put the video up of Tepper going to the restaurant where the sign was posted, and he comes in, he's starting to talk, and obviously we can't hear the sound of the surveillance video, but then Tepper takes the dude's hat off at the front of the restaurant, gives it back to him. The guy kind of shrugs his shoulders. They talk for another minute. Then Tepper shakes his hand and walks away.
We had to see if that guy had more hair than him.
I guess. It was just bizarre. But if you want to see it, it's at 1075 The Game on our Twitter, and also Charlotte TV station is one that put it up at first. Was it WBT?
I believe so.
So if you want to see it, we've got it at 1075 The Game. All right, time for our Firehouse Subtext of the hour. Yeah, there we go. We appreciate it.
And I mean,
Levi.
he's getting clowned across the Twitterverse, as you would imagine he would be.
And that's the thing, too, about today. If you went and did that 20 years ago or 15 years ago.
Well, like the thing we said with Robert Irsay is like, well, he never did this. We don't know that.
We got no idea what that.
Because nobody was tweeting out the surveillance video.
Drunken fool
nowadays,
did, right.
if you are anybody in any high position of power, whether you are owning a team or an executive at a company, whatever it may be, if you do something like this in a public setting, that information or the video, pictures, whatever it may be, are going to get out.
Let me ask you a question. If you were super famous, like you say, owning a football team, and everybody, like Jerry Jones, everybody knows who Jerry Jones is.
Yeah.
Or you're an actor, a singer, some kind of public figure that everyone knows who you are from what you do. Not someone who craves it, not an influencer, but I mean just someone who is very successful, but very well known. Would you leave your house today?
No.
I mean, because as soon as you go anywhere, what's happening? They pick this up. They'll do it for the video stream. They pick this up, this thing, and they turn the video on.
And anything that you do that's remotely, that's even remotely close to being criticizable is going to get criticized.
Yes, you can't do anything. You could just be doing what every normal human being does. You could be standing in line at the coffee shop. You could be having a beer, and you could be at the grocery store. Anything you do is some goober's got his phone following you and videotaping.
You can be a billionaire standing in line at the grocery store. Somebody will come up and say, "Hey, can I have $1 billion?" And you say no. Billionaire refusing to help out needy people. You know what I mean? That's the headline the next day.
I don't know if I'd leave my house. I mean, I can order food in.
Sure.
If I'm a billionaire, I'll just build a restaurant in my backyard.
I was going to say, you get McDonald's in the backyard. You're good.
I would. I mean, I build my own bar. I probably would never leave my house because I would not want to put up with all this foolishness.
But again, you also have to understand the position you're putting yourself in when you go and do something like this. And again, he's not in there red-faced and pointing at the guy. Like, it looked like a mutually okay conversation, but still the fact that you went in there to address this just makes you, and again, no one's giving you the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
You've already done so much in your time as an owner. The drink thing wasn't all that long ago. You're already looking bad in people's eyes.
You don't win. You do not get a W because you've got so many L's.
Yes.
Everyone's taking for granted you're going in there and you're a fool.
Yes.
It's just bottom line. It's like we talked about the Aaron Boone thing the other day. Aaron Boone shouldn't have been thrown out because he didn't say a word. But Aaron Boone has been bugging umpires for the last God knows how many years. And because you have been an umpire.
You lose the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, you've been an umpire baiter, for lack of a better term. You now have zero leeway. And that's Tepper. You have been such a disaster. You have zero leeway as an owner. And you could have walked in there and said, hey, man, nice hat, cool. Hey, I hear that sign's out there. Man, that's really awesome. Shake my hand. We don't know.
We don't.
But guess what? We automatically go to this. Look at that guy.
We're going to assume the worst.
We're going to assume the worst because everything he's done has turned to fertilizer.
Yes.
Everything. Even the thing in Rock Hill, disaster. Everything this guy touches turns to mush.
Yeah, pretty much.
So going there, why? Again, just why? If you, like I said before, if you'd have taken a picture with it and the staff and smiled and goofed around and maybe said, hey, let's get a video of us goofing about this thing, that's different.
Sure.
But we don't know what you were saying, but we always assume the worst. Why? Because everything you do ends up being the worst.
You know the one question that kid's going to get asked, what Tepper say?
Oh, there's no doubt. And what's the deal with the hat? All right. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions, next here on the game. Oh, time for what's trending at 2 here on the game in Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach. Thank you for hanging out as we roll till 3 o'clock on the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. Of course, what's trending at 2, sponsored by our buds at Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions, your official NIL partner. You go buy some shirt, shorts, any kind of merch, Gamecock stuff from Traditions, Gamecock Traditions, and it will go toward the Garnet Trust.
You can also listen to us while you're in the store because they play us in there. So
Look at that.
to any shoppers currently in Traditions, hello.
You were in there one day?
I was in there one day. I went to the jewelry side to get my wife something for Valentine's Day, and I was like, venture over to see what sports apparel they have, and I'm in there. I'm like, that sounds like Jay and Elijah.
Are they here? We're broadcasting live from here? What are we doing here? All right, so South Carolina, Kentucky, the series starts tonight, 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch. Kentucky, obviously, they've had a phenomenal season.
Absolutely.
No, like you said, we're going to hear from the play-by-play voice. We're going to re-rack your interview at 2:15 with?
It's Darren Hedrick, the play-by-play voice for Kentucky baseball.
And you said he and the folks in Lexington didn't see it.
Little surprise. And here's the thing, and you'll hear me talk about this with him. Carolina and Kentucky had eerily similar years a year ago. Right around 500. I think they were 16-14 at the end of conference play. Both hosted a regional. Both played a super against a team that would play for the national championship. They were down in Baton Rouge. Obviously, South Carolina was down in Gainesville. Very eerily similar seasons. And again, Kentucky's just taken off. And funny enough, connecting back to the regional, one of their pitchers this weekend, Dominic Neiman, who pitched for that Central Connecticut State team that came here in the regional last year. Carolina did not see him because I think they had to use him in their conference championship
he wasn't ready to
the
pitch,
weekend
right.
before. But he had a great outing against Campbell. The bullpen let him down, but he was throwing heat against Campbell in that game after they played South Carolina.
And, when you look at, I'm trying to find his numbers here. Here he is. He's had 10 starts this year. A 4.08 ERA, 1.19 whip, which is really good. And so Neiman, 47 strikeouts, 53 innings. They're starting pitching. Remember, an ERA of around 4 today is pretty good in the SEC. It's average to above average when you're sitting in the low 4s.
Yeah.
So they're starting pitching with Mason Moore and Dominic Neiman, Trey Puser. He's had 5 starts. Travis Smith's had 5 starts. So they've had some decent production from their starting pitching, but their bullpen with Ryan Hagnow and Johnny Hummel and Robert Hogan, Evan Byers, all these guys have ERAs of under 2.
Yep.
Their bullpen's pretty good.
There is, and the big thing with them is they're not going to strike you out 12 times a game.
No.
You're going to be able to make contact against them, but you're hitting into grounders, you're popping the ball up. Like, they have very good defense, and their pitchers are efficient enough to where you're not going to get it into those gaps.
And the flip side is they don't strike out. They're the second toughest team in the SEC to strike out.
Very efficient. Their numbers in SEC play alone are just about every category, if not at the top, near the top.
Yeah, and they steal bags. They're going to put, like we said, the pitchers need to hold base runners this weekend.
Yeah.
The Gamecock pitchers have to hold the Wildcat base runners. They have to be quicker to home plate.
Right.
And Cole Messina's got to be able to make some throws.
The one thing they don't do, and again, they're very much in line with South Carolina on this, they have 60 home runs on the season. South Carolina's 58. So they're not an overwhelmingly power team, but they're still just as efficient on offense with stealing those bags, with getting on base. Like, you're going to have trouble keeping these guys off the base path tonight.
And the interesting part is they don't hit a ton of home runs, but if you look at, like, doubles, like, they've got 3 dudes in double figures regarding doubles this year.
Right.
They got guys with slugging percentages over 600, but they're guys who have doubles and triples as much as home runs. One guy in double figures and homers is Ryan Nicholson.
Yep.
They've just been really good. I mean, I was, again, talking about their schedule here a little while ago. Before losing 2 out of 3 to Tennessee, if you look at what they've been doing, they've been smoking folks. All right, so I'm skimmed down here too. They won the first game at home against Tennessee, lost the last 2. Tennessee's been on fire as well. Then they beat Louisville in the midweek, swept Auburn, lost to Samford 9-7, but before that took 3 from Alabama at home, and then swept Ole Miss in Oxford. Beat Miami of Ohio midweek, swept Missouri in Columbia, beat Evanston. This is the other team I forgot. You might have heard of these guys. Swept Georgia, beat Murray State, But this is the funny part. Before they went on this roll, they lost 2 out of 3 to Kennesaw State.
Yep.
So they have been cooking, playing really well. I mean, you talk about sweeps at home. Like you said, they play well on the road. So this is a series. If you're South Carolina, you're back at home. You've been much better at home than on the road. You got to find a way to pull 2 out of 3 here. It's time. Again, I'm not trying to be mean. Forget aggregate scores.
Sure.
It's about W's.
And I get where that argument comes from.
I do too.
That's a moral victory at the end of the day. Like, hey, we only had 1 run behind them. Well, you still lost 2 out of 3. And at the end of the day, the number of wins that you have matters. You are dead on 500 in conference play, 18 games in. You got 4 more series left, 12 games, and you're still in the category to host right now. You're still high in the RPI. If you lose another series this weekend, and again, you've been doing a good job not getting swept, so there's that. But if you lose 2 out of 3 again, you're going to probably fall out of that category.
And here's the other part of it. And Coach Kingston's, and I agree with Coach Kingston where he says we're really close. We're really close. You are. You're holding your own in these series. You're just not winning them. At some point, though, we're really close. We're really close. You have to kick the door in at some point. And this weekend will be a nice weekend to start kicking the door in if you're South Carolina. And win 2 out of 3 would be good for your confidence, your resume, everything, if you can find a way to beat Kentucky 2 out of 3. All right, here's Coach Kingston talking about a bunch of different things going into the weekend. Let's start off. He talks about their base stealing and how South Carolina needs to minimize Kentucky stealing bags.
Well, I think there's certain things that you just do in general to try to minimize the stolen base against you, but I think you probably need to have a little bit more heightened awareness. You need to make sure the other team knows that you're going to be aware that that's one of their weapons. And so does that mean we pick off more? Does that mean we're quicker to the plate and use more slide steps? It'll be a little bit of everything, but just know that we are aware of it, and we will be prepared throughout the week, and you hope that you can do a good job of making sure that's not a part of the game that really hurts you.
Like we talked about, quicker to home plate, holding runners better, giving Cole Messina the opportunity to make the throws, and Cole Messina is going to have to, throw dudes out.
Right.
All right. Also, Coach Kingston, we were just talking about that getting over the hump. We're really close. We're competitive with all these teams, which South Carolina has been in these series. They just have had trouble getting the big hit, making the big pitch, making the big play defensively in those important moments. Here's Coach Kingston talking about getting over the hump. Cut 5, Tyler.
Well, we got to get over that hump. We keep playing toe-to-toe with all the best teams in the country, but we need to win one of these series against one of these top 5 teams. It's just a matter of it. Most of the time, it's a matter of one more hit. It's a matter of one more play on defense. It's a matter of making one more pitch that prevents a 2-run single with 2 outs against you. It really, all these games are coming down to one play on either side, and we need to be the ones to get that one more play on the positive side. And if you do that, you win the game, you win the series. It's that simple.
Yeah, we start by make the play, whether it's get the big hit, make the big pitch, getting the big out defensively. In these moments where you win and lose games, that's where the problem has been.
And like I said, I think this is the last week you can use that almost over the hump excuse, because we talked about yesterday. I think people have already gotten tired of hearing it. Again, we're not here for moral victories. This is a place that is expected to be in Omaha at a regular clip. You took them to a Super last year. That means people are expecting you to be in that conversation once again next year. As of right now, it's not looking that way. Again, you can get hot at the right time, but as one of our texters pointed out yesterday, they want consistency. They don't want to, be Ole Miss like a couple years ago. No, they want a program that can consistently win at a high clip year in and year out. And right now, not really sure if that's going to be the case this year.
Yeah, and I think you're right that this is the last week. Get over the hump, really close. And Mark's not wrong. He's right. They've been really close, and they've got to get over the hump. But now it's time to crawl the hill and get over that hump and win games.
If you're in year 1 or year 2, then that excuse has a lot more longevity to it. When you're your 7, people aren't as receptive to that anymore because it's like, well, you should have been over the hump before. Why are you still saying this now?
And you've been close twice getting to the Supers.
Yes.
So now, okay, got there, been there, done that. Time to get back to Omaha.
Right.
You know, we understand. We've been patient. Now you gotta start stacking some wins and get us to Omaha. And that's kind of where this is, especially coming off of last year. And then you watch, like, for an example, look what Kentucky's done this year. Now, there's no guarantee Kentucky's going to go to Omaha. Kentucky might soil themselves early in the postseason and be out. Who knows? When you see a team like that make this meteoric rise the way they have this year, it's human nature to go like this. Why can't we do that? It's just human nature.
Why not us?
Exactly. So, South Carolina, a big weekend series, I think is a fair way to say it, with Kentucky here at Founders. All right, injury issue at shortstop with Will Tippett. The sad thing was Tippett was finally getting going.
He was really clicking. They'd stopped him from being a switch hitter, sitting in that right-hand box, was really working out for him. I give credit. Lee Ellis had a good weekend filling in for him this weekend, but Tippett really seemed like he was coming into his own and giving you that true production at the bottom of the lineup, and unfortunately not going to happen this weekend.
All right, here's Coach Kingston with an injury update about Will Tippett.
Will not be available this weekend. He's in concussion protocol, but he's also nursing a minor knee injury that happened on the exact same play. So he won't be available this weekend, but we're hopeful that it won't be much longer before he's able to play again for us.
And you brought up Ellis. Offensively, in a short sample, 17 at-bats, Ellis is hitting 294, 412 on base, 500 slug. It's been solid. What I like, and it's a short sample, 6 walks, 9 strikeouts. If it's 0 walks and 9 strikeouts, it's like, ooh.
Yeah.
But Ellis has drawn walks, has an idea of the strike zone.
And again,
that's a good thing.
This is a guy that was factoring into that role or competing for that role in the preseason as a freshman. Like, he's very talented, very good, and certainly somebody that you're looking forward to as a future success, or somebody that's going to give you success in the years going forward. Again, you're thrusting him into this role now. Let's see how he performs and what that can mean going forward as well.
And here's Coach Kingston talking about Ellis at shortstop.
Yeah, I think he gave us a nice spark offensively. He took some very competitive at-bats. He had the 2 doubles, both to right field, but he also had to hit through the 6-hole. So he took some pretty competitive at-bats and sparked our offense. I think we need to get more consistency out of him defensively. And shortstop, outside of catcher, shortstop's the hardest position for a freshman to play at this level. So we just need to continue to see him have confidence, play with confidence, and make all the routine plays.
So we will see what happens. It starts tonight, 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch. South Carolina hosting Kentucky in a big SEC 3-game set. We'll come back and get the Kentucky side of this thing from
Darren Hedrick, play-by-play voice for the Kentucky Wildcats.
I know that. I'm just seeing if you remember.
Okay, thank you.
You buying that one at all?
No, not at all. You can't remember the phone number here.
I need it right in front of me. It's so sad. You know what I mean, Timmy?
Sure.
All right, halftime show, Tommy and Timmy. We'll come back here. Tyler's interview with Darren Hedrick, the play-by-play voice of the Kentucky Wildcats. Here, get some insight on Wildcat baseball. That's coming up next here on the halftime show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic South Carolina, here on The Game.
All right, welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Terry Ford along with you. Of course, big baseball series coming up this weekend, starting tonight against Kentucky. 7 o'clock first pitch out at Founders Park. Pregame coverage starting at 6:45 right here on the game. Going to recap our conversation from earlier on today on the extra point that I had with Darren Hedrick, who is the play-by-play voice of the Kentucky Wildcats baseball team. All right, and welcome back into the Extra Point. Tyler Head along with you on this Friday morning. Very, very busy weekend out at Founders Park as the South Carolina Gamecocks get set to welcome in another tough opponent for what has been a up-and-down baseball season for the Gamecocks so far. Number 4, Kentucky coming into town. Pleased to be joined now on the Love Chevrolet phone lines by the play-by-play voice of the Kentucky Wildcats, that being Darren Hedrick. Darren, first of all, appreciate your time this morning. When you look at these two teams a season ago, very, very similar in a lot of ways, right around 500 in conference play. Both teams got the ability to host a regional and ended up playing in supers. The two teams that would go on to play for the national championship, obviously Kentucky ended up playing LSU, who ended up winning the whole thing. Going into this season, were you expecting Kentucky to have as good of a year as they've had so far?
Well, Tyler, first of all, thanks for having me on. And just to answer your question, I've been asked that a couple of times this year, and I think the best way to answer it is, did I think Kentucky would be good coming into this year? Yes. They had a core group of guys coming back from last year on the mound and around the field, position players in the lineup. They did a great job, again, in hitting the transfer portal to fill needs around the field and in the bullpen and in the starting rotation. So, yeah, I felt like going into this year Kentucky would be good. But to see them win 11 straight SEC games and start 15-1 was obviously very pleasant surprise. That's something that doesn't happen very often in this league. Even the perennial teams that you see towards the top don't often have the kind of start Kentucky did. So it's been an incredible ride to watch this team go on this year.
When you look at this team from an offensive standpoint, they're not one that's going to kill you with power, but their numbers, especially in SEC play, are nothing short of staggering everywhere else. Best batting average, on base percentage, second in slugging. Can you speak to the plate discipline this team has and the ability to just make solid contact and find ways to get on base?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you just see a lineup full of veteran guys, and they all have a winning mentality or come from a winning culture. You think about Nick Lopez and Mitchell Daly in the middle of that order. Lopez comes from Southern Cal, which is a historic program in college baseball. You've got Mitchell Daly, who is on a Texas team that's been to Omaha in the College World Series. So they all have winning experience. And then you just have that veteran presence in the lineup, guys who are established. Emilian Petrie and Ryan Waldschmidt are both pro hitters. Grant Smith is a guy who can lay down a bunt 1 minute and then hit a bomb later in the game. We saw him do that with Tennessee. But it is an offense that does a lot of things. They'll steal bases, they'll lay down bunts, and like you say, we've seen them hit their fair share of home runs, especially over the last 2 or 3 weeks.
You mentioned that base stealing, and that is such a big part of this offense, leading the league in that in SEC play by a whole 10 stolen bases over second place Vanderbilt with just 22. How much of a dynamic does that add to this offense, and how much has that been a big part of why they've been so successful this year?
Well, I just think it puts stress on the defense, and that's what Kentucky's trying to do. They're trying to add pressure to the guy on the mound and to the infielders, keep them on their toes. And, even, Tyler, when you just fake like you're going to steal, when you just do that head fake, it forces your infielders into different angles because they know they have to protect the base that you're trying to steal, and it just creates different gaps. It makes it more likely that you're going to be able to find a hole for a base hit. And it's the same reason why Kentucky, they have the threat of laying down bunts, and you'll see them at times fake the bunt. And that'll force the third baseman or the first baseman to come in, creates better angles or tougher angles on the defense. So it's all predicated on putting pressure on the defense and forcing your opponent to make plays. But also, in some ways, it can speed up pitchers and force mistakes from the guy on the mound.
And talking to Darren Hedrick, the play-by-play voice of the Kentucky Wildcats ahead of this weekend series as they come into Founders Park to take on the South Carolina Gamecocks. Let's switch over to pitching now. You mentioned the transfer portal, going out there and getting a lot of high-caliber talent. One of the guys that South Carolina fans can be very familiar with from Central Connecticut State, Dominic Neiman, who's going to be one of the guys getting the start this weekend. He's somebody that did not face South Carolina a season ago, but really stood out in that regional when they were here taking on the Campbell Camels after South Carolina had beaten them in that first game. What have you seen out of him, and what can we expect out of him this weekend on the mound?
Yeah, we call him Dominant Dom every once in a while. That's his nickname for some of the outings he's had this year. Nyman has been special in that Saturday role. You're talking about a guy that threw a 3-hit complete game shutout against Alabama. He is coming off a tough start against Tennessee where he didn't make it out of the first inning, but Kentucky expects him to rebound. He's a dog competitor on the mound. He's just going to do whatever it takes to succeed on that particular Saturday. And, you know, coming from the left side, when you look at Kentucky's pitching on Friday nights, you're going to see a right-hander. On Saturday, you're going to see a lefty, and then Sunday you're going to see a right-hander with sink. And so Kentucky just tries to give you different looks and present different challenges. And Nyman, his ability to land all three of his pitches has been really key for him this year. And when he's on, he has been one of the toughest outs in the SEC because the guy knows how to pitch. And like you said, he's been in these big environments with the regionals, and so Nyman has been a huge addition to this weekend rotation.
This staff as a whole, their numbers are pretty interesting. They don't necessarily kill you with strikeouts, but they have the lowest batting average allowed in SEC play. And what exactly are they throwing to these hitters that are just kind of forcing contact but not allowing guys to get on base a whole lot?
Well, it's a staff that's not afraid to pitch to contact at this level, and it's just a philosophy from their pitching coach, Dan Rozelle, and the whole staff. They're looking to, they call it being the tip of the spear. They want to set the tone for the entire team on the mound, and they just look to attack, and they're not afraid of contact. And they get a lot of routine fly balls. They get a lot of routine ground outs. And when you have a defense as good as Kentucky's behind the guys on the mound, you don't necessarily have to rack up 10, 12, 25 strikeouts a game. You can let your defense behind you work, and that's what this pitching staff does. They trust their defense to make plays, and so they go on the attack. And if they get strikeouts, great. If they don't, put the ball in play and let the opponent get themselves out.
When you look at the South Carolina team, again, right at 500 in conference play as of right now, but still very high in the RPI, and a lot of the metrics do favor South Carolina, still believed to be a regional host at this point in time. What really stands out to you about this Gamecock team?
I just think they're a dangerous club, Tyler. I mean, you could talk about them being up and down, but they've got a sweep of Vanderbilt. They've got a series win on the road against Florida. You know, obviously Ethan Petrie is one of the top hitters in the league. So I just see a dangerous team, and Kentucky knows coming down here to Founders Park. South Carolina has handled business against Kentucky in this ballpark over the years, and I think they're 34-14 all time against Kentucky here in Columbia. So the Wildcats know they got a fight on their hands. This one's going to be a struggle this weekend between two teams. Kentucky's trying to position themselves to potentially host a Super for the first time and make Omaha, and South Carolina's trying to position themselves to host a regional. So this should be a fun matchup this weekend.
I got to slide one more in here for you. Can't talk to somebody from Kentucky without mentioning basketball. How is everybody adjusting to the Mark Pope era up there in Lexington?
There's a lot of excitement around the Mark Pope era. I think it's just been a breath of fresh air. It's a new voice, and I think they were just getting to a point where the relationship between John Calipari and the fans, it was going to take something spectacular from Coach Cal next year to really get the fan base 100% back on board. I think it was just best for both parties. And, we wish Cal all the best at Arkansas. But the Mark Pope era, everybody's excited. They got a new women's basketball coach in Kenny Brooks. So there is a lot of excitement, and obviously the rumors and reports of transfers and freshmen and all that is cranked up. So even though the baseball season is in full swing, we're getting a lot of basketball coverage right now in the Bluegrass as well.
Well, Again, that was my conversation earlier on this morning with Darren Hedrick, the play-by-play voice of Kentucky Wildcats baseball. Terry, what day is it today?
It's the greatest day in the history of the world.
As it is each and every day.
Yes, it is. We'll hit that next on the halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina here on the game. Time to check the greatest day in the history of the world.
Can imagine there's a lot of draft stuff today.
Yes, April 26th. Sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. A lot of draft stuff today. We're going to dump right into it. Dig right into it, whatever you want to call it.
Well, depending on what the news of the day is, I guess.
Yeah, some of it is dig, some of it's dump. All right. On this day in 2018, Baker Mayfield was the first pick in the draft, quarterback from Oklahoma, Heisman Trophy winner selected by the Cleveland Browns. 4 quarterbacks taken in the top 10 for the first time in history. Now, let's circle back to that one real quick.
Okay.
Baker Mayfield, obviously still in the league.
Yes.
Has kind of resurrected himself. I mean, he's a...
Fourth team? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, because...
Cleveland, L.A., Carolina, Tampa Bay.
Yep. And look, he's okay.
He's fine. He's serviceable.
Not wow.
No.
Not awesome. Not terrible.
He led an okay Tampa Bay team in a bad division of the playoffs.
Yes. He's okay. He's all right. Number 3 pick overall was Sam Darnold.
Ooh.
He is starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. Problem was he was drafted by the Jets.
Well, it wasn't a problem until he started hearing those ghosts.
Yeah, those ghosts changed his life. Saw ghosts, heard ghosts.
Yeah. They need to get Scooby-Doo and the Mystery Crew out there.
Velma. Darnold ended up in Charlotte with the Carolina Panthers. He's now a journeyman, and he is a bust.
Yeah,
Sam Darnold's a bust.
1,000%.
Josh Allen, not a bust. 7th to the Buffalo Bills. Allen has, again, give him a ton of credit. Early in his career, he's like, look, I got to rebuild everything I do to make myself a better quarterback. And since he did that, he's been one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL.
I came across a video last night that was a video of Bills fans reacting to drafting him back in 2018. They weren't thrilled about it. No. And again, in the beginning, it was like, whew, I don't know about this. But again, he rebuilt himself essentially as a quarterback to play at the NFL level, and he's been doing great ever since.
Yep. I give him a ton of credit for that. Not many dudes would go, okay, I got to do this better because this ain't going to work.
Yeah.
And just start over from the studs. So give Josh Allen a ton of credit. So that's one massive hit in Josh Allen. One, he's okay in Baker Mayfield. And one in Sam Darnold.
That's about the average for a draft.
Oh, no, it gets better.
Oh, okay.
10th selection in the first round, Josh Rosen, quarterback UCLA.
The Rosen one.
Yes. Yes.
Now, I will say, only getting 1 year in Arizona was a little bit of a raw deal.
It was a real raw deal, but he just never worked anywhere else. Went to Miami.
And, he came out of college with a bit of an arrogance about him that didn't sit well with a lot of people, to where I think he lost the benefit of the doubt pretty quickly.
Yeah, and the thing, there's a thing with that was tagged on Rosen by scouts. Rich kid, never had to really work hard for anything in his life.
Hot tub in the dorm.
Very entitled. Hot tub in the dorm. Is he going to be a grinder, a worker? When things go south, is he going to fight to bounce back, to resurrect himself? So we've seen Spencer Rattler do.
Yeah.
Could Rosen be that guy? I don't know Josh Rosen. Don't hang with him. Never sat in the hot tub with him. Thank God. But it feels like he kind of went, okay, this quarterback thing really didn't work out. All right. What do I do now? Where do I take my hot tub? So Josh Rosen, a ginormous bust.
Wasn't he like super into tennis growing up and then had to quit to play football? And it almost like,
I believe you're right,
was a good football player in college,
really
enough
good
to get
times.
Drafted to, and a very smart guy, went to UCLA for crying out loud.
Smart guy, could sling it.
It just seemed like his heart wasn't in it necessarily.
I think he liked football. He didn't have that passion for football. And again, well-off family. So he's not much of he's not the grinder. Let's put it that way.
Do you know what the last roster he was on was? Can you guess?
Great question.
Because he's the definition of a journeyman. He's been everywhere.
I know he was in Miami after Arizona.
Yep.
Oh, I'm blanking. What's the other ones? What's the last one?
The last one was the practice squad for the Vikings last year. Okay. And again, they were rotating through quarterbacks every other week, it seems like.
He couldn't get a sniff.
That makes sense. After Miami, he went to Tampa Bay, was on their practice squad, went to the 49ers, went to the Falcons, was with the Browns, was then with the Vikings. And that was it.
And think about it. Here's the thing. Good. Let's focus on the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan is what? Whisper.
Yeah.
Couldn't whisper to Josh.
It's like there's something clogging his ear.
Yes,
he's not listening.
Couldn't hear. The final pick of the first round, the fifth quarterback taken, because 4 went in the top 10 for the first time ever.
Yep.
The fifth quarterback taken was a dude named Lamar Jackson.
He turned out all right. You mean the running back, right?
Yeah, the running back.
Yeah.
Yeah, the running backs turned out okay. So that's two hits in Lamar and Josh Allen, 2 busts in Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold, and 1 okay guy.
What did I tell
Baker
you the other
Mayfield.
day? The Pete Prisco of CBS Sports says take 5 quarterbacks in the draft. 2 are going to be pretty good. 1's going to be okay. And then 2 are busts.
Well, Prisco's thing was perfect for 2018. And while we're on that topic, 1983 is always looked at as the quarterback draft.
Sure.
That year, you get John Elway first, Hall of Famer. You get Todd Blackledge 7th, nice color commentator, in Kansas City. Then you drop down a little bit. Jim Kelly went 14th to Buffalo, Hall of Famer. You keep dropping down. You get Ken O'Brien. Ken O'Brien was a good quarterback, just not a great quarterback. And the thing that was held against Ken O'Brien was the Jets drafted Ken O'Brien instead of Dan Marino, who was taken by the Dolphins 27th.
Oof, yeah.
And the funny thing is, when you think about that, that's 3 Hall of Famers in that draft.
Yep.
1 solid quarterback, 1 bust, and a second solid quarterback I didn't get to yet, Tony Eason, who was taken by the Patriots.
Yeah, they went to a Super Bowl with him.
Yeah, I mean, he was a solid, not great, but he was a solid quarterback. So you had 2 solid quarterbacks, you had 3 Hall of Famers, and Todd Blackledge.
Again, great commentator.
Yeah, nice commentator, good hair. But that's the interesting part. And the reason, because if someone looked at this and go, why the bleep did Dan Marino fall so far? The rumor was Dan Marino smoked pot at Pitt. He was a pot smoker. That's why his last year wasn't as good as his previous years, because he was smoking pot.
If that were used as a deterrent today, with the same mindset of 1983, how many guys would not be getting drafted anymore?
Fall down the draft board.
Now, yes, if you are egregious like a Josh Gordon, and it's a problem that's literally preventing you from playing football, that's one thing. But if you were at a party and did it once or something like that, I don't think that's the character issue that it gets made out to be.
Because let's be real. If this is today, Dan Marino, let's say he played at UW, where it's legal, or Colorado, where everybody's smoking weed.
Sure.
He's the number 2 quarterback off the board.
Oh, yeah. There's no question about it.
Number 2 quarterback off the board. Kansas City might have taken him instead of the great commentator, Todd Blackledge.
Maybe.
But Marino would have gone, he would have been the number 2 quarterback off the board that year. But he was the last quarterback off the board in 83.
Well, it worked out okay.
Worked out okay for the Dolphins. But yeah, if you're the Patriots, the Jets, and the Chiefs, you stay awake at night going, wow, we could have had Dan Marino.
The Patriots, it ended up being all right in the long run.
You know what?
They
in
worked
the long
out.
run, you forget.
They got some pudgy kid from Michigan, 17 years later.
That's the funniest part, because before that happens, all you're talking about is you're one of the teams that passed on Dan Marino.
Yeah.
So, very interesting. All right, so also on this day, the greatest day in the history of the world, here on the halftime show on the game, it's like I said, a ton of draft stuff. On this day, Andrew Luck was taken. You know who the number 2 pick in that draft was in 2012?
2012. I don't remember.
Some guy named Robert Griffin III.
Oh, that's right. And then they drafted Kirk Cousins 4th, 5th round.
Mm-hmm. And guess who?
Well, one of those guys is still in the league.
And one of those guys on ESPN.
That's right.
2008, Miami Dolphins draft Jake Long, offensive tackle, University of Michigan, solid career.
Yeah.
Had his moments, also had some injuries. So that guy was taken. And then John Elway, of course, taken number 1 in 1983. 1992, Steve Entman, defensive end from the University of Washington, was taken first overall by the Indianapolis Colts. Something you would not see today, most likely.
Probably not.
Yeah. Or Jake Long, for that matter. So there you go. The greatest day in the history of the world, sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. We will come back. Firehouse Sub, text the hour, 803-404-6100. Craft beer card is back. Spend $30 a brewery, 12 craft beers, $360 value. Yours for only $79. Go to 1075thegame.com, click on Sweet Deals, get yourself a craft beer card. We'll come back, check the Firehouse Sub, text the hour on the halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head as we wrap this sucker up on the game.
you need to pay very strict attention to every detail. So I just think it's a journey. From opening day till the last day in Omaha is a journey, and you just have to respect each day. Some weeks go quicker than others. Some weeks feel long based on if it's travel, if it's home, are you winning, have you lost? But at the end of the day, our goal is to make sure that we take a very consistent approach so that in the end, in the big picture, you're where you want to be.
There's Mark Kingston answering the question, is this crunch time? Is it go time? And we were discussing it earlier this hour that you got to start winning these series.
Yep.
And this isn't do or die. This isn't the end of the world this weekend, but you got to start at some point stacking series W's. Because things are still in front of you can control, but if you got to start winning these series.
You got 4 series left. Yeah. Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, Georgia. Missouri's the easiest of those, but you're going on the road to Columbia, which is certainly not the other Columbia, that is, which is certainly not easy. I don't want to say this is a must-win series against Kentucky, but you do yourself a lot of good getting 2 out of 3 this weekend.
Tennessee's been playing really well. Like you said, you got Missouri still left.
Georgia might have the best player in the entire country that you're going to have to deal with.
He's a top 5 pick in the MLB draft.
Yeah.
So at some point, you got to start winning these series. And it starts tonight, 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch right here on the game. Real quick before we get to our Firehouse subtext the hour at 803-404-6100, Dane Brugler, The Athletic, put out a second and third round mock draft. He has Spencer Rattler going to the Rams, but still in the third round.
Okay.
Look, I said earlier, I will not be surprised if Rattler doesn't go in the second round now, because the teams that couldn't get a quarterback in the first round might take that same MO that like Denver did in the first round. We got to get our quarterback now.
Sure.
Because if we wait till the third round, somebody might take the best guy on the board, who right now is Spencer Rattler.
Yeah.
So don't be surprised if Rattler goes in the second round, but he could still go in the third. We'll see.
Very possible.
All right. What do you got there on the old Firehouse sub text of the hour?
Yeah, so going back to what Coach Kingston said about, getting over the hump, Robert weighs in and says they have been really close all year. At some point, you have to be there.
Yeah, you just have to get over it. You're close. You're knocking on the door. At some point, you got to crawl through the window if they won't open the door for you. You got to find a way to win these series. You're at that point now where with these 4 series left, you at least have to split them.
Ideally, if nothing else. That way you'd still be 500 in conference play. Again, that's not perfect, but you'd still put yourself in position to maybe still be in line to host a regional. Obviously, you have to go through the SEC tournament. If you put in a good performance there, that can help you out as well. But you can't afford to get swept in any of them.
No.
Duh, that's the obvious thing.
Right.
But you just got to win some series.
Yes.
Plain and simple.
You do.
No matter who it is, you got to win some series.
And like you said, Missouri is easy to 4, but you got to go to Como.
Yeah.
And weird things happen there in sports when you go play Missouri.
It'd be the longest trip of the entire sease.
It's like 3 days by boat or whatever it is. It's ridiculous. It just
got to take a wagon out there.
Little covered wagon action. Woo-hoo, mush, let's go.
If you played Oregon Trail back in the day, you'd be okay.
So, look, none of these are going to be easy. No one's saying there's no way you can lose these. Sure, you could lose these series.
Of course.
Kentucky's really good. Tennessee's really good. Georgia, like we said, Georgia's had some series where they beat some folks.
Right.
None of this is easy, but you got to find a way to navigate and start winning these series.
For sure.
You just do. You have to. Thank you for the text. We appreciate it on the Firehouse sub. Text the hour at 803-404-6100. We go into, obviously, the NFL draft tonight, round 2. Let's go back to the quarterbacks real quick. 6 were taken.
Mm-hmm.
If we go by the hit rate on quarterbacks, 3 are going to be successful and 3 aren't.
Yes.
The three that I think will be successful, I think Caleb Williams is going to be successful. I think Jaden Daniels will be successful. After that, I have a tough time saying this guy's for sure going to be successful.
It's funny you bring that up. We're going to go with a 3-3 split. Intern Joe and I played my favorite game of above, below, or in between, where we put all these quarterback in the list. So if we're going to split it right in half, my 3 that I think are going to be successful, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and funny enough, Drake May, the top 3 picks in the draft.
I'll be honest. See, I was going to say Drake May, but the wild card is who are the Patriots now, right?
Yeah, good question. And how much development does he need? Because he seems like a still unfinished project at this point in time.
He is. He needs a veteran quarterback. And they have Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
So they'll start Jacoby Brissett, who is who he is. Hopefully Drake May can sit most of his first season because, again, there's some stuff. He's got some bad habits. His arm talent's really good, but he throws off his back foot. His momentum sometimes is going away from the throw. He gets a little sloppy because his arm is so good. There's things he needs to work on.
Sure.
And if he gets time to work on it and the Patriots build that cocoon you and I talk about, Drake May can be successful too.
Sure.
I just, Bo Nix, I don't think is going to be successful. Michael Penix Jr., I love his arm. I just don't know because of the injuries.
Well, we got to wait 4 years to see him try it out on the field.
And then I guess if we're going to go 3-3, J.J. McCarthy won't be successful.
Yeah, I don't know enough about him.
I don't either. So that's where we're at. Nice job, my friend. Appreciate it, Tyler Head. Fine work. We will do this again on Monday. Elijah is here with the post-game show. Jay will be back Monday. Elijah and the great Captain Dave in the producer chair. We're done. Have yourself a good weekend. We will yap with you again on Monday. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina, right here on The Game.